The rear axles in these Tacomas is a pretty big weak point that I don't see discussed very much.
There's a little sticker inside the driver door of your truck, and this is giving you all of your cargo carrying capacity information, and it's all extremely important. It's not a suggestion, it's a requirement, because if you exceed that cargo carrying capacity, you can turn the nice straight axle in the rear of your truck into a smiley face, which will then give you a frowny face because you'll have to replace it. There's a couple different things you can do to prevent this, and for me, I just rip the whole thing out and, well, I'll show you. Because of what I do, and because of the way I use my truck, I replaced the whole rear axle housing because, I've wheeled this thing in 17 states, I've wheeled it in 3 different countries, including America. I know that's kind of cheating, but it's still 3 different countries. And it's been everywhere. It's rock crawled on both coasts. And because I'm so hard on it, I just decided to bypass living with a really nice big heavy duty truss and going straight to a Fusion 4x4 Ford 9-inch based rear housing. They make these specifically to bolt into the Toyota Tacoma. Now I ordered it with no brackets. I welded all my own brackets and built a rear suspension for this, but they make it to where you can literally just bolt these in and you have a heavy duty replacement. If you don't want to spend that kind of money and you know a fabricator or you're comfortable as a fabricator, you can definitely get a truss to truss the rear axle housing of the factory Toyota Tacoma. That is definitely the cheapest option forward. But if you're like me, you expect a lot out of your truck, you want to make sure that bending a rear axle housing on a long trip is the last thing you have to worry about. I think that replacing the whole thing with a heavier duty unit like this one with thicker axle tubes and larger diameter axle tubes is probably the ticket.
If you go online and you just simply type out Toyota Tacoma bent rear axle, you will find that this is a huge problem across the board, and I think that it just mostly has to do with the fact that the payload capacities on these trucks are incredibly small. If you do the basic calculations and math on your own truck on your next trip, you will realize that with just a couple of people, an overweight dog, and some, your water and food and stuff, you reach the maximum capacity of the truck very quickly, much less adding a winch, bumpers, sliders, an alu cab. This stuff is all going to add up very quickly and make it to where your axle is prone to bending. The next modification on the list is steering. I have a Land Cruiser 200 series steering rack, and this has been absolutely bulletproof for me. I've ran 37s, 39s, 38s, and I haven't had any issues with this rack so far. This is made to work with the Marlin Crawler RCLT, which is the front suspension that I have, and if you have a different style suspension or whatever the case may be, there are lots of companies online that make Tundra racks that they build and change to work with the Toyota Tacoma. In any case, if you plan on running a 33 or larger and you're going to use it off-road, you've got to address this rack, or you're going to have to bring a factory one with you on the trail.
If you are doing anything more than 4 service roads, you got to get a set of skid plates and sliders. These are both heavy, they're expensive, and they're so important. They're extremely, extremely important. These engines are notorious for going hundreds of thousands of miles, but they don't if you pop a oil pan or pop a hole in your oil pan on that rutted out trail that you didn't expect to hit, even if you are just going overlanding. So I highly recommend a good set of both. In this case, I went with aluminum skids. This is my first time doing aluminum skids. These have lasted about 3 years and they are still taking a beating, but I don't know if I'd recommend aluminum for everybody. I have the ability with my shop and with my tools and stuff that I can straighten out a set of aluminum skids because these things get pretty bent and contorted. But if you don't have that ability, just go steel. It's gonna be so much less maintenance for you, and it's gonna be easier whenever you need to service things to pull the stuff on and off. When it comes to sliders, 10 times out of 10, I recommend make sure that you're using steel. I haven't seen a set of aluminum sliders hold up on very many people's rigs. Maybe for an overlander that just kind of flirts with hard trails, maybe that would be justifiable. But if you plan on doing Rubicon level trails or whatever, you occasionally get a little bit wild with your homies, you've got to have a strong set of sliders. Otherwise, that's going to become a consumable part, which becomes very expensive.
The next mod on the list is a winch bumper, and this is probably the first thing that I'd recommend anybody get. The ability to self-recover is so important, and in many cases, it's extremely necessary because it's the safest way to recover, get yourself back off of that cliff. But on top of all those benefits, a winch bumper also typically will give you way more approach angle, and you replace a big piece of plastic with a high clearance piece of steel, you're not going to be as prone to just tearing off the plastic front bumper that comes on these trucks stock.
These Tacomas have some pros and cons when it comes to the air filter. The filter itself is a good size, which I love, but the location of the air box is a little bit of a problem.
Look at all those little chunks of mud and rocks and sand and all that stuff in my air box. It is crazy, but here's the reality. This isn't a Toyota specific problem. Lots of manufacturers have air boxes that draw air from the inner fender. And whenever you go with a larger tire, and in most instances, you've got to get rid of your inner fender liner, and that is like what keeps there from being a direct line from your tire to your air box. So what I need to do is get a snorkel. Snorkels are for more than just water crossings, and it's been one of my favorite mods on a few different vehicles now because it is insane how much cleaner you keep your air filters, which make it to where you can go way longer without changing them. I mean, I'll bring spares on the trail because I change them so much. And with a snorkel, you have the ability to add this special topper that I found called Snorkel Upgrade. And I did a test on it a while back with the Land Cruiser build that I did. And it is amazing how well this snorkel topper separates solids from just like air and helps keep your air cleaner longer. And of course, on top of all that, with a snorkel, you can also go through deeper water crossings and not worry about sucking water into your motor.
This next one is on the more obvious side, in my opinion, and that is lockers. You can't get these stock with a front locker. No big deal. I put a front locker in this. But the rear locker, there's some issues here. I love the traction control system that's in this Tacoma, but I don't get access to it unless like all of the systems are functioning. I have a code for a like collision avoidance system malfunction. I took care of this about 1.5 years ago, had some calibrations done, and a big old bug just like splattered across the sensor on the front of the grill, and that has made this malfunction come back up, which you would think, well, what does that have to do with lockers? Well, you can only use your locker in 4 low, right? So here we go, 4 high, we are now in 4 high, kick it into neutral, go to 4 low, it's 4 low, we are in 4 low. Whenever I have this collision system malfunction light going off, I can't use the rear locker, and I'll show you. I would love to use like the multi-terrain select, which is the traction control in these Tacomas, which I really like. And when I push it, multi-terrain select, not available. Here, I'll show you what we're working with here. Push it again, multi-terrain select, not available. So there's features like lockers and traction control that will go out if you have a pre-collision system malfunction. For this reason, I pulled out the factory rear locker. I installed that front locker, so they're both just ARBs. And so whether I'm in 4 high, 4 low, whatever, that noise you're hearing is my air compressor. There's rear locker's on. Doesn't matter that we have this malfunction, which if we had this malfunction and I was trying to use the factory locker, we wouldn't be able to. And then boom, there's front locker. So we're fully locked. And what's nice about this, by putting in your own lockers instead of relying on the factory Toyota ones, is that you can only use lockers in this truck, or locker, the rear one, when you're in 4 low. Well, now here we are in 4 high, and I still have both lockers on. So it gives me a lot of flexibility. No matter what the nanny systems and computers in this truck are doing, I have the ability to turn lockers on and off at will, which in my opinion is somewhat of a safety concern to not be able to use all of the off-road capability of the truck to get you back home.
This next mod is overlooked, and it's one that I'm going to do myself here in about a month, and that is converting to disc in the rear. You don't want drum brakes in the rear in an off-road truck. I've had these rear drum brakes lock up on me so many times, and in fact, my neighbor had his lock up in his driveway where you just pull the parking brake, and then when you go to release, it doesn't release. So if this happens to you, here's a quick pointer. What I've found works really good for my truck is put it in reverse. You don't have to like mash on the throttle, just put it in reverse and then pump your parking brake handle a bunch really quickly. And then usually I have gotten that to like free up my rear drum brakes so I'm not just like dragging a tire around. But we all know that the actual fix for this is to get rid of drum brakes and put discs in there.
Modification number 8 is a roof rack. I cannot express how happy I am that I put a roof rack on here early on when I built this Tacoma. because it has been so handy. There are so many times where I've got gear that's just too long, even for the factory bed. Stuff that's just it can hang out over the front of the roof rack or over the back of the roof rack, but it sucks when it's hanging out of the back of your bed. I think that this is one of the most underrated mods that you can do. A nice roof rack like this is not cheap, but it's one of those things that if you save up, you pony up the money, it makes a dramatic difference in your ability to carry extra gear whenever you go off-road.
Most of you watching this video, I'm sure, are going to keep your factory bed. And if that's the case, I highly recommend throwing a set of bed stiffeners on your bed before you have issues. The composite bed's really cool in my opinion in the Toyota Tacoma. However, if you're going to actually strap things down back there and use ratchet straps and whatnot, people crack the composite bed all the time, which is why there are so many different makes and models and manufacturers of people that make stiffeners for the bed of the Tacoma. So in my opinion, you pony up anywhere between $60 and $160. You bolt on these bed stiffeners and then you get ahead of this problem before it becomes a problem.
Wheels and tires are probably the most important mod you're gonna do to an off-road truck. And this is not where you wanna just if you're gonna try to save money, it's somewhere on your build. Wheels and tires are not where you wanna try to do it. You wanna get something quality. You bought a Toyota Tacoma. You're into reliability. Get a reliable tire. I decided that I wanted to do a 37-inch tire minimum on this truck. They fit it really well in its current iteration. I did a 37 1350 Nitto mud grappler. I needed something extremely durable. Nitto has a reputation, one of the best reputations in the industry for durability. I needed something very aggressive. It's an aggressive truck. It needed an aggressive tire, something with really big, wide lug spacing that can clean out in the mud. And I needed something nice and wide so that it floats over the snow really well. I have been extremely impressed with these tires so far. They're wrapped around a 17-inch Method bead grip. I ran bead locks for years and it's all I wanted to use, but once the bead grips came out and I started using them, I have 4 sets now. They are amazing. They have this ribbing that goes around the bead, and it makes it to where you can air down nice and low and it resists that bead slipping off, that joint between your rubber and the aluminum of the wheel. It resists that slipping off and it makes it to where you don't have to have a bead lock ring. So for a project like this, I mean, I couldn't be happier. You save all that weight in the wheel, which is really nice, and I can take it to any tire shop, whereas most tire shops won't mess with bead locks. It's funny how even when you get a truck to this stage, I mean, this is a heavily modified truck, it's still not over. And it's difficult to do a video where I'm choosing only 10 Toyota Tacoma mods. There's so many things that you should look into and research and discover about your own Tacoma. I'm happy with this in its current form, and I'm excited for the next phase, which I know that I'm not the only one. Many of you watching this video can relate, and you feel the same way about your truck. You never stop modifying them. They're so fun to play with. And this is a truck that I plan on keeping for a long time. And it's a good thing because Toyotas are known for lasting a long time. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the trail.
Thanks for watching Driving Line. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to our channel so you'll never miss any of the content we create here. Whether you're into trucks, Jeeps, imports, domestic vehicles, or anything in between, we are here to fuel your passion. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you guys next time.